podcast recording earlier today, and I found my mind was drifting because I was contemplating this difficult conversation I was going to have. So, after that was over, I went for a 10-minute walk. Just get outside, move around a little bit, and come back. And the conversation went great. I don't know if it's because of the walk or if it was my attitude adjustment or what, but sometimes we just need those 10 minutes to sort of just reset. Welcome to the Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today, we've got another super quote day. So basically working through a list of quotes, as I've mentioned before, if you've listened in, I think this is number 4. Basically just list out quotes and kind of just things that have meant a lot to me in business that I use a lot. Sometimes I write stuff down. Continuing on from last week's, the one that, actually this came out in episode 1 of the Curious Builder Podcast. Ed Engelbrecht is the one that shared this with me. Go back to episode 1 if you're interested. And it's culture trumps strategy. I've heard also that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And you can have the best strategy, the best game plan, but really it's the people in the business, it's the culture of your company that no matter what strategy you have, I'm not saying strategy is not important. I think it is very important. But if you don't have the right culture to support it, it doesn't have the same effect. And you could have an incredible culture and your strategy might not matter as much because your culture is so strong. I think I've read some books on this where, especially a small company, let's say like mine, I'm just 5 people, we're pretty small. As companies get bigger, it's very difficult to maintain a cultural effect because a lot of times the owner was kind of the owner, if you will, pun intended, of the culture. And so I think that's where mission value statements, vision statements are super important to companies. You look at a company like Apple, I don't even know how many employees there are, but especially when Steve Jobs was there was a very clear vision, a very clear culture. He left for a few years and they faltered. He came back and they thrived. And they had a very clear culture. They attracted people to their company, to their brand, because they were so clear on their why. Simon Sinek has a really good book that I read last year called Know Your Why. If you haven't checked it out, I'd highly recommend it. It's really incredible. I'd even say for me personally, so I've been building for 21 years. I'd say the last 3-4 years, I've gotten very clear on my why for building custom homes. And I'd say today it's clearer than it's ever been. And there's a variety of reasons for that. One is I think as you get older, you have some experience and you kind of understand what's important to you. I think as my kids get older, May is 9 and Simon is 7 and Tate's 5. I think your kids sort of help inform like your why, like what's important to you, which then that's your personal life. Then it also sort of informs your business. I think the Curious Builder has brought a lot of clarity to what fulfills me and what energizes me and how I show up not only for my family, for my own company, but also my peers around the country. And so anyway, really getting clear on your why, which really then helps your culture. I think that's super, super important. And sometimes it's a journey to figure out what your why is. I was thinking a little bit, excuse me. There's another one that's really funny. Don't believe everything you think. I think this one's actually pretty funny. I remember hearing this and saying like, oh, I got to write that down. Don't believe everything you think. And I think this is the value of having friends in your life. There's a verse in the Bible that says, faithful are the wounds of a friend. It takes a real friend to come up to you and say, Mark, you're in the wrong. You need to know that what you're doing is incorrect because most people don't take correction very well. I'm no exception. I don't think I take correction particularly well. There are certain people, I will say, that when they correct me, I'm way more open to listening to, mainly because they're so good in how they deliver their corrections. And ultimately, when it comes from a place of love and care, it obviously is received so much better. In the previous podcast, I had mentioned a quote that I just heard, thinking of my buddy Drew Beeson. He said, focus on the problem, not the people, or, be hard on the problem, easy on the people. And I think this is true too. I think when we approach people for correction, understanding that, how do we get this message across? Is it best for them? Is it best for the company? Is it best for the culture? It likely is. So the question is how do we deliver it so that they can receive it? Because again, of course, people want to hear good news. They want to hear that they're doing a great job. And I think it's easy when the effort is there. I think when people's effort is there, if you don't have to critique people's effort, it's so much easier. If you have to tell people that they need to try harder, I don't know. I don't know how effective your message is going to be. Because I feel I feel like effort is one of the few things that we can all bring to our relationships, to our job, to our career, to everything, honestly. Like our effort. What is our intention? Skill and how we do it. I think we can be pretty terrible at those things and we can get better at them. I think we can have grace with people. I think when people are trying hard, I think you can do a lot with that. You know, if you told me, Mark, you can pick someone that just tries super hard, or you can have someone that's really great at everything but has lackluster effort. I'm picking the person that tries hard all day long. I used to coach cross country running. I used to say that all the time. Give me a trier. Give me someone that's willing to sweat and to hurt and to try and put it all on the line. I actually don't even care if they're fast because that's not important to me. What's important to me is are you going to try? Are you going to give it your all? I think that's why setting goals that you can fail at is pretty cool. You know, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know, I've been training for 8 months for a big race. And by the time this airs, the race will be over. Maybe I'll do a little episode about it. But, you know, I think it's okay to fail. I think failure, that's the whole reason we have the series of losers or winners, is failure precedes success. I think you need it. I think it's really important for our businesses and for ourselves. Anyway, don't believe everything you think. I think going back to this quote of having people around you that will tell you the reality of it. And I think that's the mark of a true friend. I tell my clients all the time, you don't want to surround yourself with a bunch of yes men and yes women. Like you want people that will tell you that their real opinion. You know, I unfortunately have to tell my client, like, I'm sorry, you can't have everything you want at that budget. Your budget's 3 million. It's not 10 million. And colloquially, there's other things that are sort of derogatory, like, oh, they have beer budget and champagne taste. You know, I mean, that's fine. You can laugh about it. And not that analogy isn't true, but, you know, most people are not trying to be difficult. Most people are not trying to be unrealistic. I think if they are, then those are really difficult conversations. But I think it's just helping them understand what's attainable, what's reasonable, and how we can help them get there in any business. I don't care what business you're in. You know, I think if you show up to an ice cream shop and you're expecting a triple decker ice cream cone and they're like, we only do single scoops, like you're on two different parts. You obviously have to pay more for triple scoop. That's how it goes. I wasn't planning on that analogy, but there you go. A man on his feet are worth two in his seat. I love reading quotes I haven't read in years. That one's just kind of catchy. A man on his feet are worth two in his seat. I think this is just activity breeds activity. You know, I think what is so impressive about construction in general is, you know, you go to the field. I'm always just amazed at how hard the people we work with work in and day out. I need to do a better job of complimenting that effort because it is impressive. And when I do go to the job sites, I always make an effort to say thank you, you know, appreciate your hard work, but I could do a better job of it. I often, when I go to the job site, you know, I'll buy everyone who's there pizzas. If I go over the lunch hour, or maybe that morning, I'll say, hey, you guys are doing a great job. Can I send you guys pizza? It's a small token of effort. Hot day, you know, a lot of framers across America do this. You know, supply your guys with cold drinks or ice cream, whatever it might be. Just say thank you. They're working so hard. I think physical labor is not what my day-to-day looks like, but I highly prioritize physical health, and I think it has so many benefits. But I was thinking about your framers or all the guys that are in the field. They're up early. They're on the job site early. They're working all day long. One thing that I should really ask is how many of them can you even prioritize fitness outside of your kind of normal grind? You know, I think of like a roofer who's on the roof hauling bundles in the heat all day long, sweating buckets. I don't know. I mean, is it unrealistic to also ask them to prioritize their physical health with training, whatever it might be, lifting weights, yoga, running, biking, basketball, whatever your thing is? I don't know. I should probably do a better job of asking my trade partners if they're interested in that. Because I think it's obviously, as owners and someone who's very much interested in wellness, we have the Curious Builder Bootcamp, for goodness sakes, for that very reason. But it's mostly owners that are going to that. Most of the people are out of manual labor. I don't think we do a great job of addressing, you know, if you are in manual labor, what does wellness look like to you? I think that would be actually a really interesting topic to bring some people on and ask them what's reasonable. This is probably more just a thought than a quote, but, you know, set meetings that are 50 minutes that start 5 minutes after the hour and end 5 minutes before the hour. For those of us that do a lot of virtual meetings and client meetings, it seems like it's always on the half hour. It's either the hour or the half hour. And I think our calendars are sort of set up that way. It's kind of a pain in the butt to set something to start 5 minutes later. But, you know, if we're honest, we're always at least I am. I think most people are. It's like you're always like everyone that first 5 minutes, everyone's kind of scrambling because you maybe left one meeting to get to another meeting, or you're answering an email real quick. And I know a lot of people tend to overbook. We're like airplanes. We depend on people canceling because if they don't, we're overbooked and then we have to cancel. And so I think there's something to be said about not being so maximally efficient at everything, allowing some space to breathe. I know I'm a hypocrite here. That's the reason I say it out loud is I need help remembering this. I need to create space to have time. And anyway, I sort of like this scheduling. It's just a small thing you just bought back 10 minutes of your time. It just might be to do nothing. Maybe it's a walk down the block. I had a difficult conversation I had to have today, and it was just kind of on my mind all morning. So it affected my thinking. I had a podcast recording earlier today, and I found my mind was drifting because I was contemplating this difficult conversation I was going to have. So, after that was over, I went for a 10-minute walk. Just get outside, move around a little bit, and come back. And the conversation went great. I don't know if it's because of the walk or if it was my attitude adjustment or what, but sometimes we just need those 10 minutes to sort of just reset. And I think a walk is great.
This episode is brought to you by Olive & Vine Socials. If you're a builder, a designer, an architect looking to grow your brand without dancing on TikTok or spending your whole life on social media, listen up. Olive & Vine Social specializes in Pinterest marketing, blogging, and email strategy for luxury home brands. Did you know that Pinterest is second only behind Google in search power engine? We've been able to use it for the Curious Builder brand, and it's dramatically changed who we reach and how we reach them. They help you turn your beautiful work into strategic, SEO-driven content that drives real traffic and connects you with your ideal clients without burning you out. Ready to grow smarter and not harder? Visit oliveandvinesocials.com and tell them the Curious Builder sent you. Lake Society Magazine is Minneapolis' premier target market boutique lifestyle and design publication. It embodies the unique lifestyles and design of the Minneapolis City Lakes neighborhoods. From Lake of the Isles to Lake Harriet, it showcases the best in local design projects by both premier builders, architects, and interior designers in this area. Lake Society Magazine has the look and feel of a national publication with glossy covers, high-end finishes. It's mailed directly to upper-bracket single-family homeowners in the City Lakes area, and it's the perfect local coffee tabletop publication. Subscriptions can also be available through the website lakesocietymagazine.com. Additionally, publisher and founder Karen Steckel has over 27 years in the local magazine publishing industry and has a passion for high-end photography and quality graphics. Her commitment to quality, visual simplicity, and beauty are strongly reflected in her beautiful Lake Society magazine.
Let's take trim, for example, or painting, which is obviously the nemesis of any builder. I have never seen a paint job I couldn't find something I could improve upon. But that doesn't mean I haven't had excellent painters and excellent paint. It's just something that's like, it's hard to have perfect paint in an entire house. And especially as the homes get higher scaled, larger, more expensive, more intricate, there's always something that you can find that's not perfect. And kind of like, don't let the best be the enemy of the good, And again, we're in the business of, at least for me, I'm in, high-end building and architecture. Like it's not that I don't want the best, but at some point, we have to draw a line and say that's good enough. Unless the client was willing for an unlimited budget, which I've yet in 21 years ever met a client that had an unlimited budget. I think of like the car finish, just like silver, glossy. Not nobody. Every once in a while we'll have like a cabinet that has that finish, like in a bar or an island or something like that. But certainly not all the trim in the whole house. And if that was their expectation, then the pricing would also justify that expectation. We could certainly do it. I have no qualms that we could do, the best or have all of that, let's say, trim or millwork perfect. But are you willing to pay the cost to do that? Is 99%, 97% good enough? Or do you need that extra 3% to be happy with it? And here's the wild thing. Give that house 6 months and it won't be 100 anymore, no matter what you do. Because guess what? Homes move. In our climate, in the wintertime, and when it's minus 20, your humidity is down in single digits. And in the summertime, this summer has been just a mug fest. Training in this humidity has been brutal. You're going to get 90-some% humidity. Your woodwork's going to swell. So even if it was perfect on the day they moved in, it's different the next day. So I think if you're getting to the 90th percentile on your quality, I think you're doing a pretty good job. Don't be too hard on yourself. And I think this is, again, setting expectations. Don't judge me by my best or my worst. Judge me by what I do consistently. I think this is true of friendships, relationships. Someone recently told me that if you want to see your future, look at your five closest friends. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future kind of concept. And there are certain times where you need to pick up your friends because they're in a difficult spot. And there's sometimes they need to pick you up. And I think our spouses see the best and worst sides of us because we're in like a little test tube chamber. They see us all the time, maybe too much of the time. I remember when my wife and I were dating, it was long distance across the country because I was in Minnesota and she was in California doing residency. And so, when you're apart, what's that old quote that distance makes the heart grow fonder? And when you're apart from each other, things are pretty great. You fly in, you're a weekend, it's romantic, it's like out of a rom-com movie. It's like things are great. All of a sudden now you're spending every single day of your life together. Some people can handle that, some people can't. I think especially, I'm getting a little TMI here, as you get older, I got married when I was, I think, 33. I've been independent most of my life. And I think people get used to having some sort of autonomy. You hear this, I know that my clients have had this. I've had a couple of clients where the missus was retired or earlier than her husband, or she, was a homemaker in this case. And her husband worked in the medical field and worked in a different state. In fact, I only met him twice during the build. And when we were done with the build, about 2 months before we were done, he had moved back because they had sold, this hospital practice or whatever he was doing. And he was there all the time. I remember the client being like, oh man, I wish he would go back to work. Seeing him every day, all day, she was so annoyed because for 40, 50 years of their life, he was gone in the morning, came home at night for dinner, or in this case, he was gone for months at a time. They would talk, obviously, either virtually or on their FaceTime or whatever. And then they had another home that they would meet at. I just thought it was, you're at these different phases of life having to sort of recalibrate on what normal is. And then we have clients all the time if we're building homes where they call it empty nesters, right? You hear it all the time at school. Oh, my kids are leaving for college, and someone is like, oh, it's really hard. I'm good. I can't. Yeah, it's going to be really hard not seeing my kids every day. I'm really going to miss them. This phase of life is over, and it's going to be a big adjustment. And then you hear someone like, oh, Matt, yeehaw, I'm an empty nester. I'm a free range chicken, baby. I can do whatever I want. And so it's all a matter of perspective and what you're either looking forward to or what you're missing. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think every family has their own dynamics. All right, this one, kind of fitting that this one is right after that comment. Parenting is a contract with failure. If you are a parent, I feel like you can relate to this quote a lot. I feel like more often than not, I fail more than I succeed. I guess I just keep trying, glutton for punishment. And luckily, kids are like rubber balls. They just keep coming back for more. They have so much love and they're so adaptable. Kids are amazing. We have so much to learn from them. I know I've learned a lot about business. I've learned a lot about my spouse through my kids, just seeing it through their eyes, I think as any parent, let's say you get upset with your kid or you yell at your kid or you're short tempered with their kid. And then, especially business owners, we're so busy. Owning a business takes so much of your time and attention. And then you come home, they just want to spend time with you. They just want to read a book. They just want to play Legos. They just want your time and you're just exhausted. And it's not what they're asking for is unreasonable. And it's not what you as a business owner is asking for is unreasonable. You're just tired. And so you're not always your best. And then, of course, you put them to sleep and you're laying awake thinking, man, all they wanted was to read a book. All they wanted was to play a little bit. And that guilt just kind of eats at you a little bit. That's what I think of when I think of parenting failure, like when I've failed. Anyway, yeah, parenting is a contract with failure. I mean, you're going to fail. I fail all the time. And luckily, my kids are very gracious with me. I think also like in building, like maybe more holistically, like life is a contract with failure. Owning a business is a contract with failure. Again, I don't think failure is bad. I think we learn so much from failure that it really helps not only define us, but it helps it not create us, but it helps us reinvent ourselves and become better versions of what we ever could be. So anyway, that's enough quotes for today. Thanks again for tuning in the Curious Builder Thursday. You get a random variety show every Thursday. It's either quotes, losers or winners, or sometimes a random guest. I'll see you next Monday. Thank you.
If you've been listening to the podcast for a while now, or even if this is your first episode, I talk about the Contractor Coalition Summit all of the time. Our next one is happening November 7th through November 10th in Chicago. And all the details can be found at the contractorcoalitionsummit.com. You've got Brad Levitt, Nick Schiffer, Tyler Grace, Morgan Molitor, and myself will all be there. We've got great content over 3 days. You've got builders from all over the country. Try to get it to about that 30 people number. And we'll have sponsors as well that add a lot of value to each one of these dedicated days where you're talking about contracts and spreadsheets and margin and whether you're doing fixed bid or cost plus, your pre-construction agreements. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If you haven't been following it yet, you should. The Contractor Coalition Summit Instagram page is giving you a steady diet of the conversations that are being had, a lot of promo reels, a lot of the interviews that I've done personally at Omaha, which was my first Contractor Coalition where I'm part of the leadership. I interviewed all 36 people that attended, and we're going to be unveiling each one of their interviews over the next couple of months. So people that were not able to attend and would like to can kind of get a better idea of the value that builders are getting. So if you're going to sign up and come to Chicago, you can type in the promo code Curious Builder and get $2,500 off, and we'll see you in Chicago. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor, share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.